Let me now turn to what the Prime Minister said on education. He said that students from less privileged backgrounds must not be deterred from pursuing a university course just because of money, and that this is fundamental to maintaining Singapore as an open meritocracy. But the PAP have not given our young people a meritocratic landscape. What they have given our young people is a new term called the graduate poor. Young people who work hard and fulfill their own and their families' ambitions in getting a university degree, remaining unemployed for months and even years after graduation because of the disastrous employment policies designed and implemented by this government. Policies that make it easy and economically preferable for employers to hire cheaper foreigners than to invest in local higher employment. Policies that have resulted in 16% of those driving Grab and Gojek being aged 30 and below. And the Prime Minister made a big fanfare of lower university fees and increased bursaries in the coming years. Let me say this. He was forced to announce these measures because of widespread disgust among Singaporeans after they learned that this government spends almost $250 million every year on foreign students coming to study in our local universities. People's Voice has been speaking out continuously on this subject for the past few months. This government even had the cheek to tell us that what they are spending on foreign students now is only half of what they spent a decade ago. It means that 10 years ago, this government was spending more than $500 million of taxpayers' dollars on foreign students studying in our universities. When many of our Singapore students were unable to fund a local university education, or parents were having to dip into their CPF or borrow in order to fund their children's local university education or foreign university education. And today, 30% of all our university places are taken up by foreign students. Why are we depriving our local students of a local university place? The quota of foreign students should never exceed 10%. And why is the Prime Minister only announcing lower tertiary fees and increased subsidies now, when it is clear we have had the means all this time to help Singaporean students? Ong Ye Kung, the Education Minister, said some time ago that the PAP's policy was to have no more than 30 to 40% of our adults having a university degree. That is shocking, and it shows how myopic the PAP government is in its vision for the future of Singapore. A first world nation needs a robust and highly educated population in order to progress well economically in the knowledge era. Studies have shown that countries that will do well in the knowledge era need more, not less graduates. Some of the most creative and innovative countries in the world have a much higher percentage of graduates compared to Singapore. The country with the highest percentage of graduates is Canada at 56%, followed by Japan and Israel at 50%, and South Korea at 47%. The United States and Britain have 46% of their adults graduating with a university degree. And the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, famously said that Canada depends not only on what is grown on our soil, but also on what is in the heads of our people. Yet here in Singapore, we have a government that tries to limit the potential of Singaporeans by telling our young people there is no need to go to university. And they do that because they have no idea of how to grow the economic pie in this new world. All they are capable of is to repeat the mantra of globalization and free trade when the world order changed a decade ago after the 2008 financial crisis. That is why Singapore is in so much economic trouble today. We live in the fastest growing area of the world. Yet, when all the other major ASEAN countries are growing, we are regressing. And all that the PAP and mainstream media, who are their mouthpiece, can give as the reason is that there's a trade war going on between America and China. What a lame excuse. And it shows that despite all the talk of restructuring the economy for the last 30 years, the PAP have not been able to bring up our economy to speed to face the new challenges of the knowledge era. Why do you think that one of their former members of parliament, Inderjit Singh, remarked that Heng Swee Keat's Committee for Future Economies report was nothing but a rehash of old ideas, and that there was nothing new in it? One of the consequences of the PAP's myopia is that many of the lucrative jobs which can only be filled by university graduates will now go to so-called foreign talent, when the government should be ensuring that it is Singaporeans who get these good paying jobs. Why do you think so many Singaporeans are disillusioned with this government today and no longer feel that Singapore is home? The Prime Minister talked at length about preschool education and the importance of this in the full development of a young child. But let us not forget that the well-being of a young child starts and is developed inside the home. And the single biggest stress to a family home life that research has proven in numerous studies is the financial well-being of a family. Financial stress creates family stress, and in turn this affects children of all ages, but in particular the very young children below the age of 5. And yet under the PAP government, we see young families squeezed and burdened financially. Water hike of 30%, electricity hike of more than 25% alone in the last 2 years, significant increase in transportation costs, and the impending 2% increase in GST, just to name a few. So it's not just about creating preschool places. It goes further than that. It goes deeper than that. It's a bigger problem. It's a bigger rooted problem. Financial difficulties have a huge impact on the development of an under 5-year-old. So when we are talking about preschool development of a child, it's not as facile as simply creating more preschool places. He uses Mr. and Mrs. Low as the anecdotal story of how middle-income families will be paying less fees for preschool for their children. They pay $560 per month per child for preschool. That is a lot of money even for a middle-income family. The charges are so high, it's disgusting. There should be no cost for preschool education. The beneficiaries of a free education are not just the children and their families, but each and every Singaporean alive today and in the generations to come. And we should be investing in our next generation's future from the first day they start school, not burdening their parents and families with an overinflated cost of education. When we are a first world country with $1 trillion of reserves, these young people are the ones who will make up our future governments, will spawn the ideas to solve our climate change problems, our future leaders, our innovators. We would do well to invest in them from day one. He also talks about how once the child is in primary school, the cost will be a lot less, and in many cases, almost free. Almost is not good enough. Almost free, almost democratic, almost thinking about it, the almost party. Why are we talking about small incidental fees? Primary school education should be absolutely free in a rich first world nation like Singapore. Almost is not good enough when we are talking about our children, their future, and future generations. In a country like Singapore, education should be free, all of it, preschool, primary, and secondary, not convoluted schemes about subsidies or means testing. In a first world country, which Singapore is and has been for many years, it should be a given that preschool, primary, and secondary school are all free. And it's quite damning that we are one of the very few first world countries where that is not so.